there are several entities working together to destabilize our country. China has installed so much infrastructure across different continents. Where does all the fentanyl come from? Comes from China. Where does the cartel get the chemicals from to process it? Comes from China. People not paying attention to this. Just right now, we got Russian submarines 60 miles outside of Florida. All of these entities are enemies to us. Over the last 4 years, we've seen an uptick in chemical plant fires, train explosions with chemicals on them. Recently, there was a house explosion in Arlington, Virginia. Officers were coming to serve a warrant, and the house exploded. Every time you see police coming to serve a warrant, DEA, ATF coming to serve a warrant, and you see a house exploding, that's a telltale sign. These are the same things that happened in Afghanistan. These are the same things that happened in Iraq. How is it that a person can get their hands on C4 plastic explosive? There's an operation going on to launder dangerous materials. We just seen a guy in the Yakuza operating here get arrested for trafficking nuclear material. This guy had weapons grade plutonium and all type of illicit drugs here in the United States. He's just been charged. What else is floating around? What else is floating around? I always say, there's never anything good coming when you see ex-special forces guys martyring themselves to get information out. Just to give people a more in-depth look into special forces and Delta, what that means, these guys are the best of the best. Navy SEALs and Marines, when they go to BUDS, they operate in a group. Delta and Special Forces guys are trained. In their training, they're out alone doing solo missions. So when the gentleman exploded in the Tesla truck in front of the casino in Las Vegas, he was by himself. He reached out to Sean Ryan to explain to him what was taking place with the drones, and he released certain information saying that these are Chinese gravitational propulsion systems they've developed, and they were pretty much showcasing their power, telling the United States, like, look, we're gonna take Taiwan, there's nothing you can do about it. You know, China has an initiative to be the world's superpower by 2050. They poured more concrete into Africa than the entire size of the United States of America. They've installed so much infrastructure across different continents, people not paying attention to this. So all of these entities are enemies to us. Where does all the fentanyl come from? Comes from China. Where does the cartel get the chemicals from to process it? Comes from China. All of these things are interconnected. And, you know, I put in my 10,000 hours to connect the dots. And this is what I've come up with. It's of my belief there are several entities working together to destabilize our country. Just right now, we got Russian submarines 60 miles outside of Florida. We have Russian fighter jets 4 miles outside of Alaska getting intercepted by US fighter jets. This is why Trump wants to purchase Greenland. He wants to make Canada the 52nd state for security purposes. There's a lot of land that needs to be secured in order to stop an infiltration.
Let me ask you, and I want my viewers to understand, this is not a theory that that Big Homie's come up with. He's done his homework, he has connections and relationships, and he's very well read and very well connected. So what he's talking here, I wouldn't have him on if I didn't know this and believe this about him based upon my limited experience, but enough to read somebody pretty well. This is not a theory, some crazy conspiracy theory. If you put all of this together, it makes sense, because let me ask you this. If in fact, and I think we know this to be a fact, the head of the FBI has said it, the head of Homeland Security have said it, we definitely have terrorist cells in this country that we don't know where they are. We don't know where they are. there's possibly thousands of terrorists that are attached to those cells in this country planning to do some evil deeds. The guy in Louisiana, what was his military background was what?
His military background, he was in logistics.
Logistics, okay. So it's, even though people were saying, well, he wasn't a migrant, you know, you can't blame him for coming over the border. But what people don't understand is these people get radicalized from terrorists that are here or that were overseas that they're paying attention to when they have any disillusion or dismay with what's going on in this country. So people need to understand that. Just because an American citizen doesn't mean he's not radicalized by a terrorist organization that exists already in this country.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the Biden administration removed large swaths of military personnel from active duty because they said they were radicalized for the Trump movement. Yeah. So you're removing actual patriots who have disdain for the way they're watching the country be ran. You're removing them. And then you gotta look at it. Outside of that Bible Belt area, you know, do we really have a lot of people willing to sign up to be warfighters? You gotta look at the landscape of things. Over the last few years, people have been arguing about who's a man and who's a woman. Completely egregious, in my opinion, because no matter how we feel, you and I know that the world is a dark, cold place. You know, you find warmth in the family structure and homes that you create. Outside of that, things can get very dangerous. And working in the field that I work in, especially combating human trafficking, I've seen the darkness. I've seen the complete dark underbelly of humanity. So if human trafficking can be $100 billion a year business, that's operating almost with impunity. And people are crossing the border blatantly on terrorist watch lists and living in undetained status. Terror cells are definitely here. There were raids done to go and retrieve high-value targets, Caucasian women who have been radicalized, and they were using them to recruit others to radicalize them to be suicide bombers. It's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time before we see something on a large scale, multi-state effect, because the groundwork has been laid for it. I'm concerned about it. It keeps me up at night. You know, I went to several platforms asking them, like, look, I want to make a presentation. They didn't want to do it. They wanted to talk about, you know, asinine hip hop topics, stuff like that. I was like, you know what? I know who to reach out to. So I was watching you on a live recently, and I said, okay, Mike is aware. You know, we from the street. We from areas where we had to police ourselves. We from a situation where people in our community will have a problem. They'll come to us. Absolutely. And we would have to, you know, sometimes we gotta rule with an iron fist at times. If we can't verbally de-escalate a problem, sometimes force has to be used. And now the force that we're using is media, these platforms, because people want their information, but it's not being given to them directly. They're being forced to put pieces together, and the next thing you know, they'll read one article, then they back to TikTok. You know, I believe short form content is dumbing people down. If a video is not 10 seconds, people don't want to watch it. That's why on YouTube, they reward you for making videos longer than 10 minutes. You know, the future is here. We're on the forefront of it. And I thank you for allowing me this opportunity to come talk to you and put this information into the atmosphere.
Well, listen, homie, I appreciate it so much. And not only, you know, this won't stop with me. I have some other contacts in the news media. One of them that'll be here next week. If you're okay with it, I want to pass your name on to him because he's investigating. He's out of London, but he's from a big news organization as big as the BBC out of Istanbul. He's very interested in the fires because he said, Michael, this is very suspicious. We don't like what we've seen about the government in California, and we want to talk to you about it. And he's asked to talk to me, Rick Caruso, who was running for mayor of Los Angeles. He lost. He was defeated by the current mayor, whatever her name is, I forget. But he wants to get information because there are people out there like yourself and myself that want the truth to put out there because we're facing some very dangerous times. And yes, Trump is now the president. It's going to be different. But again, if there are these cells remaining in this country, it's not going to be overnight that you're going to, smoke them out and get them and arrest them, deport them, whatever. It's not going to happen. Things are going to happen. I believe, like you said, that we're going to see some tough things going on, over these next couple of months, whatever it might take. But homie, let me ask you this. This is what's so stunning to me. We had a President Biden that allowed all of this to happen. Now, we know he's half out of his mind, half not in his mind, whatever you want to say, dementia, whatever. I don't give him a pass on anything because he's a grown man. He took a responsibility. He was in a position of tremendous trust, and he violated it to the nth degree as far as I'm concerned. But what are the forces behind him, knowing how destructive this is to the United States, knowing that allowing terrorists to come into this country? What is the force behind this, in your estimation, that would do something so dark, so low, so destructive to the country that they belong to?
I'm going to say this. I'm watching Trump and his administration have an active policy to reinstill the Bible and religion into schools and into political framework. There's a church of Satan in every major metropolitan city. Forces of darkness are real. I'm not 100% sure because what type of human being are you if you're working against humanity? I feel like there are groups of people whose souls have been compromised into the fact where the dollar is worth more than their own species. I believe people prioritize their own personal bloodlines over the rest of the world. I feel like certain groups feel like they have dominion over others, and I feel like they're passionate about it. And, it's mind-boggling to me. I try to wrap my head around it. It's not often that I get stuck, but in the work that I do, when it comes to the human trafficking thing, a lot of time, you see satanic rituals getting done. Sacrifice of children is real. This is a real thing. Human sacrifice is a real thing. There are over 150 active serial killers moving around in the United States right now. These is documented facts. So I personally feel like personal gain is so enticing to people that they're willing to sacrifice others to obtain it. That's my own personal belief.
I have to concur with that because there really is no other answer to this. It's satanic, it's demonic. We're not even talking about, or I haven't mentioned up to this point, the over 300,000 children that came into this country, illegally, of course, that are missing.
Unaccounted for.
Unaccounted for. That should be in the news every day. It should be the headline. Finding these children. We don't even hear about it. It's glossed over. It's passed over. Nobody takes it to heart or takes it serious. These are children. God knows what they're being put through at this point now. And listen, I will verify this. I'll back it up and I'll swear to it. There's no doubt that there are satanic rituals going on with children. There's no doubt that there's pedophilia going on at the highest levels. You know it with Diddy. We also know it with Epstein. They can pull the wool over everybody else's eyes. They're not doing with us, homie. Not doing. We've seen too much on the street.
We saw too much.
Seen too much. And it's just satanic. There's no other way to describe it. And I believe you, the forces of evil are very strong. As Christians, we understand that. And it's got to be. There can't be any other explanation to this. To allow it to get to this level, I just, we got to pray that Trump is effective in at least locating some of these people and then obviously getting rid of them in some way, shape, or form. When we say that, we got to worry because right away. But you know what? I got to be honest with you, homie. I can't be a fraud when it comes to this. I would have no issue whatsoever with pulling a trigger on any one of these bums that would dare sacrifice a child or burn down a house or burn down a neighborhood or cause this mass destruction, I would do it, and I wouldn't think twice about it. And people my viewers might get upset with me, but that's the truth.